What's good, YouTubers and YouTubettes? This is JB Sports, back again with another one. LeBron James, aka King James, I have him number 2 greatest basketball player of all times. Right behind Michael Jordan, right ahead of Magic Johnson. And to fill out my top 5, I have Kareem at 4 and Wilt Chamberlain at 5. With all that being said, in the post-game press conference, the aftermath, Dr. Dre, of a 4-0 sweep at the hands of the number 1 seeded Denver Nuggets, the Lakers had a roller coaster season. Pre-NBA trade deadline, they were a team holding on by a string, trying their best to be one of those 4 teams that make it to the play-in. But Rob Pelinka was going to be prevalent in this whole situation as far as if LeBron James come back or does he go into retirement after his 20th season. Rob Pelinka at the trade deadline made a lot of very good moves, bringing in D'Angelo Russell, aka D-Lo, bringing in guys like Vanderbilt who are defensive stalwarts, bringing in Beasley, who's a good 3-point shooter, bringing in Mo Bamba, who's very athletic for a big man, good shot blocker. Brought in some very good pieces, and they were able to make their way out of the play-in game when they defeated the Minnesota Timberwolves, and they defeated the number 2 seeded Memphis Grizzlies. Granted, the Memphis Grizzlies were not at full health as they were missing 2 big men, a starting center in Adams, and one of their big men coming off the bench that played prominently for the Memphis Grizzlies. They were able to defeat them in 6 games. After that, they took on the defending NBA champions, Golden State Warriors, led by former 2-time MVP Steph Curry, and they defeated the Warriors 4-2. And then comes the number 1 seeded, very underrated, not talked about a lot, Denver Nuggets, led by former 2-time MVP Nikola Jokic. Have you ever seen an MVP get less press? A lot of people didn't even know he was MVP. A lot of people in this series was watching him for the first time, and this guy was a 2-time MVP. Last year they got beat in the first round by the Golden State Warriors. They were missing 2 of their top 3 players in Michael Porter Jr. and Jamal Murray. The year before that, they got knocked out earlier than they wanted to. And then I think the year before that, they made it to the Western Conference Finals, but that was when we was going through COVID-19. That was in the bubble. So a lot of people tend to not remember that playoff run. With all that being said, they were able to beat the Los Angeles Lakers in 4 straight competitive games. They're going to try to spin this. A lot of Laker diehards and a lot of Laker fans saying this is the closest 4-game sweep we ever seen in the NBA playoffs. But the bottom line is they got out-executed in the 4th quarter. Now in the in the post-game press conference, LeBron James seemed to insinuate that him coming back is not a done deal. It's not set in stone that he will return for his 21st season. He said he has a lot to think about. He said he does not like getting knocked out in the Western Conference Finals and getting swept. He said that was not his goal. His goal is to win championships, so he has a lot to think about. I think he's putting the pressure on the general manager, Rob Pelinka. The ball is definitely in Rob Pelinka's court. He's going to have to bring LeBron James a bona fide number 3 option, by hook or by crook. It's going to be kind of hard with the money that LeBron James is making and the money that AD is making. They're not going to be able to bring in another high-end free agent without doing a sign trade. And that brings up the Colin Kaepernick of the NBA, Kyrie Irving, who is a free agent and has been rumored to be coming to the Los Angeles Lakers for next season. We will see what happens and we will see what transpires. Another name that I heard mentioned earlier today was Trae Young. Trae Young could be a trade piece for the Atlanta Hawks. I don't think that's likely. Trae Young gets a bad rap. You put his stats right next to Allen Iverson, who gets all the praise over what he's done in his previous career in the NBA. his stats are right there with AI, but he seems to get the criticism, and AI seems to get the praise. And I think those guys are much, much more on the same level. And you could make a case that Trae Young got better stats than AI. He averaged more assists than AI. Now, this is a different time now than it was back when AI was playing. The possessions were not as much as they were back then per 4 quarters. But at the same time, Allen Iverson was not a guy known to set his teammates up. You know, he got assists because he had the ball in his hands a lot, but he did not average the assists that Trae Young has averaged. And their points per game are very close. Rebounds are very close, and the field goal percentages are very, very close. Allen Iverson was a better driver to the basket, and Trae Young is a better shooter. But he seems to get the criticism, and he seems to be a player that name keeps popping up in trade rumors. And I don't know why that's the case, man. I don't think he's a number 1 option, but I think he's a great number 2. You got to try to get a number 1 option if you are in the front office of the Atlanta Hawks. With all that being said, those are 2 of the names that are being prominently linked to the Los Angeles Lakers, and those are the 2 of the names that, in all likelihood, will get LeBron James to come back for his 21st season. If that's not the case, then the chances increase that he does walk away from the NBA. So we will see what happens, and we will see what transpires. Now, I find that kind of less likely because he just signed a new contract with the Los Angeles Lakers last year. So I don't really see that being likely. But I just think the sting of getting swept in the Western Conference Finals. And there's another thing that I need to mention. His son, Bronny James, is going to be playing for the University of Southern California, USC. Got an NIL deal for $6 million, or in the neighborhood of $6 million to play for the USC Trojans. Maybe LeBron James wants to be there for his son. You know, his son will be able to bounce things off of him, you know, going through his first season in college basketball. You're playing for a major college basketball team, playing in a major conference, the Pac-12. You'll be going against the UCLA Bruins, who, if you would ask me, he was going to stay in LA and go play college basketball, I would assume it was going to be UCLA. But like I said, I seen that NIL deal that Bronny James got, and that deal was, it wasn't $6 million, but it was close to $6 million. I think it was like $5.7 million NIL deal. I was like, okay, I can see why he went to USC. USC got deep pockets. Those boosters, or whatever the case it was, as far as they got the money together from the ultimately decide to go to USC, they did what they had to do. Because I'm pretty much sure that USC and UCLA both offered Bronny James an NIL deal, but he took the USC deal because it was the much richer, the higher deal. So we will see what happens, and we will see what transpires. But maybe LeBron James might want to be there for his son, be a dad supporting his son, be at the USC home game supporting his son, and being pretty much going to the background so the spotlight can get off him and the spotlight can be on his son. Because LeBron James, in a lot of cases, people look at him as, oh, that's LeBron James' son. Maybe LeBron James want to take a step back away from basketball, let his son get the spotlight, let his son focus in on becoming a better player, and he can just be the dad in the background. And when his son wants to bounce things off of him, he'll be there for support. Now, a lot of people say, well, wait a minute, he could do that by still playing for the Lakers. If he on a road trip, his son can call him and, talk to him about things. That shouldn't be a problem. That shouldn't preclude him from coming back for the Lakers. But I'm talking about the spotlight. Maybe LeBron James want to take a step out of the spotlight, be a dad, be there at the son's home game, him and his wife and his other son and his daughter be there to support Bronny in his endeavor to become one of the top players in college basketball and ultimately become one of the top players in the NBA. I think that could be weighing on his mind too. But I think the number one thing is Rob Pelinka is definitely going to have to make a major move. Kyrie Irving will likely have to be a sign and trade. They don't have enough cap space to pay Kyrie Irving what he wants. He wanted a max deal with the Brooklyn Nets. He's not going to come and play for the Los Angeles Lakers for the mid-class exception. That's not going to happen. So they have to do a sign and trade to bring in Kyrie Irving. Mark Cuban has steadfastly stated after this past season that he wants to re-sign Kyrie Irving. Will he be willing to help the Los Angeles Lakers out and hurt his cause with one of the best players in the NBA, Jokic? Make it harder for him to get to his ultimate goal, that being an NBA championship. Mark Cuban might have to ask himself, I could do this sign and trade to get some for Kyrie Irving, or I could just sit back and don't get nothing for Kyrie Irving. He could just go sign with the Lakers. He'll be taking a big pay cut, but he might do it out of spite if he feels that the Dallas Mavericks are not trying to make a sign and trade where he can get his max dollars while not leaving them high and dry. They'll be able to get some assets in return. So we will see what happens, and we will see what transpires. But LeBron James is contemplating retirement from the NBA. LeBron James is not with just making it to the Western Conference Finals. LeBron James is all about winning and competing for championships. And if you don't feel that his team is in a great position to compete for a championship next season, maybe he walks away from the game of basketball in the Los Angeles Lakers. So we will see what happens, and we will see what transpires. When you look at the landscape of the NBA next season, you got the Denver Nuggets. They ain't going nowhere with two-time MVP Nikola Jokic and one of the most underrated players in the NBA, Jamal Murray, who people seem to forget what he did in the bubble. He got hurt soon thereafter, and he's been trying to work his way back to that level, and he seems to be at that level in this year's playoffs. You got the Memphis Grizzlies. If they can ever get their mind right, they got the pieces to make deep runs in the playoffs. One of the most dynamic players and one of the most controversial players, Ja Morant. They got a bunch of different pieces that were missing in this year's playoffs, led by center Adams, and they had another player come off the bench that got hurt. One of their main rotational players got hurt before that first round matchup versus the Los Angeles Lakers. You got the New Orleans Pelicans. If Zion Williamson can ever get over the hump as far as being injury plagued, he's one of the most athletic and dynamic players in the NBA. Was an all-star player this past season. You got him, you got CJ McCollum, who has one of the best mid-range games in the NBA. You got B.I., Brandon Ingram, one of the most underrated players in the NBA. That could be a team that can make a deep run in the playoffs. You got the Golden State Warriors, can't never count them out. I look for them to make a significant move in the offseason to give Steph Curry some help. You've got other teams out there that are making moves and making moves upwards in the Western Conference, led by Sacramento Kings, who have a great young nucleus, got the experience that they needed this past season. And maybe if their point guard, Aaron Fox, don't break his finger, maybe they defeat the Golden State Warriors, and maybe they would have been the team that would have been playing the Denver Nuggets in the Western Conference Finals. That would have been a different matchup, different problems that they would have presented that the Lakers just cannot present, being a much older team. And you can see that in the fact that every missed shot that the Lakers put up, the Denver Nuggets pushed that ball back down on the other end and looked for early offense. Even if they didn't get the early offense, they reset it and started running their plays. But the end result was the fourth quarter came and the Lakers had no legs. LeBron James bending over, trying to grasp and trying to catch his second wind. Anthony Davis was bending over, trying to catch his second wind. So that pace of play by the Denver Nuggets played dividends in the fourth quarter and played a big part of one of the reasons why the Denver Nuggets out-executed the Los Angeles Lakers in those fourth quarters in Game 1, Game 2, Game 3, and Game 4, what ultimately led to the sweep. So we will see what happens, and we will see what transpires. Will LeBron James walk away from the NBA, or is this a leverage move by LeBron James to make Rob Pelinka bring in a bona fide number 3? Or is LeBron James thinking about his son and letting the spotlight be in on him in the freshman season at USC, and he could be the supportive dad in the background? So we will see what happens, and we will see what transpires. Follow me on Facebook, Gerard Briscoe. Like, share, and subscribe to JB Sports, the man, the myth, the legend, and I holla.